Right, beautiful. So I'll add on to that. So first of all, everyone you speak, tell me your names. Like say, my name is so-and-so. It's going to take me a little bit. I'm terrible with names. Faces, I never, ever forget. But names, everyone just say, my name is so-and-so, so this way I can learn everyone's names. So I'm going to add on to that. So the story opens up, and it calls Avdi Moshe Mace, my servant. Moshe is called the Eved of Hashem. Avdi Moshe Mace. And now Yehoshua is now taking the leadership. What you're going to find in the last Perek of Sefer Yehoshua, Yehoshua is called an Eved. It's called Avdi also. So you see, Sefer Yehoshua starts with Yehoshua is the Talmud, and Moshe is the Rebbe. But you see by the end, the fantastic thing, when you get to the end of Sefer Yehoshua, in the last Perek, you're going to see Yehoshua was raised to the level where Hashem calls him Eved. Hashem says, my servant, right? So that observation that you made is an amazing observation. And in fact, Rabbi Nachman explains in Lesson Aleph in Likutei Moharan, he makes a comparison between Moshe and Yehoshua. Just like Moshe is the sun, Yehoshua is the moon. Right? And Rabbi Nachman brings over there in Lesson Aleph, Yinun Shmo, the name Nun, Yehoshua bin Nun, means moon. Nun actually means a moon. Right? So Yehoshua, he was the main student of Moshe Rabbeinu, and he was a reflection of the light of Moshe, just like the moon has no light of its own, right? That's why it's called Yehoshua ben Nun, the son of Nun, because entering Eretz Yisrael, which what Yehoshua's task was, not only was he a reflection of Moshe Rabbeinu, his Rebbe, like the relationship between the sun and the moon, right? But his whole thing was to bring, the Nun always represents the highest levels, the 50th level, the highest level. So Eretz Yisrael is the highest level. So he's called Yehoshua ben Nun, Yehoshua the son of Nun, bin Nun, or Ben, son of Nun, you know? So also, to set the stage over here, so what's going on, right? Yehoshua, we're in the death period. What are you saying? Speak up. Share. What? The chet is the sun. That's what Rabbi Nachman says in Lesson Aleph. Rabbi Nachman says in Lesson Aleph that it's been a while since I learned it, but he says that you have to find the seichel b'chol davar, the inner intelligence of all life. How do you do that? By making yourself like the moon. Nun means having no light of your own, making yourself like the moon. I always wonder if the word nun and moon are related. They sound moon, nun, the M could be a nun maybe, in English. Like I wonder, right? So he says you have to make yourself like the moon. You have to humble yourself. You have to have no light of your own. And then you'll be able to be makadol from the inner, you're able to receive from the inner intelligence of all life.
Like in English, none.
None. Actually, the letter nun.
Like none is like a non.
Noon.
Right. Well, the actually.
The moon in the afternoon.
Right. Well, that's.
Noon is rich from the sun.
Right. Every Hebrew letter, it's a little bit tangential, but almost every Hebrew letter has its English counterpart. So like Beis means a bias. And what do you do with the bias? You build. Book, right? Gimel means to be gomel, means to give. Dalid is a poor person, a destitute, or a delet is a door, right? So nun, I don't remember what aleph is. Nun is, if you look at, there's a nun kfufa and a nun pshuta, right? A bent nun and a straight nun. And what the Svarim bring down, what the nun means, it's a prayer stance. If you look like at a nun, it's like a person humbling themselves like this, nofel, and making themselves like a nothing. That's the nun right over there. So Yehoshua, in a certain way, Ben Nun, made himself like a nothing.
A nobody.
Right? A nobody. And it starts with the nun. It's a play on words, whatever it is. Like when I was learning the letters, I remember it occurred to me that everyone has like lamed means to me, lomed means to learn. Right? Everyone has its samech is somech, which is to be sovev, a circumference. Support, right? Is also.
Nice.
But point being, back to Sefer Yehoshua over here, right? That Yehoshua, Moshe died, right? And what happens is that now Yehoshua is now taking the leadership. He's taking the mantle of leadership. And what greater promise can you have? The question that's burning in the hearts of Am Yisrael is, how are we going to do this without Moshe? He's been with us since Mitzrayim. We saw the splitting of the sea. We saw the Be'er, we saw the miracles. We saw everything in the Midbar, right? They called this the door Deah. This was the door of Das, of Deah, of total awareness of Hashem, because they saw all these amazing open miracles. Now Moshe died. My guy, the guy who gave us the Torah, the guy who always stood strong for us, always went to bat for us, who is now going to lead us? And they're all wondering, what's going to be, right? So Yehoshua now, right, close scene, open scene, Yehoshua, the Torah ends, right? Torah ends on a cliffhanger. They're about to go in. Moshe dies. Right? Scene closes. Now the Navi opens up. Who is it? It's Yehoshua. Yehoshua is now going to be the next leader of Am Yisrael. And the Torah opens up in many, many different ways. The Navi opens up in many ways. Hashem promises Yeshua, just like I was with Moshe, I'm going to be with you. That's great. Right? Imagine in your own life, you're like, how am I going to do this? Like, what? Like, you don't know what to do with yourself. You're in utter shock, right? And then in that state of utter shock, Hashem says, don't worry, I'm going to make you successful, right? What an amazing promise, right? What an amazing promise. Hashem says, I'm going to be with you just like I was with Moshe. That's incredible. And not only that, Hashem goes ahead and says, because this is the door Dea, this is the door, the generations that's used to seeing open miracles. But now what's going to happen, as he says, Chazak v'yamatz, many, many times in the Opsim Sukkim over here.
I think it was 3 times.
Right? 3 times. Well, it's not that the Torah predict the future. It's that Yehoshua wrote Sefer Yehoshua, and he wrote the last 8 Sukkim in the Torah. So what happens is that what?
The last 8 Sukkim?
I think the last 8 Sukkim in the Torah. Right? So it says, it's not that it was predicting itself. It means Yehoshua wrote the Sefer. And I don't know if he wrote it when he finished it or if he wrote it step by step. I'm not sure, But the point is that Moshe was, I forgot what I was going to say. What was that? What were we saying?
How is it possible to know what happened after Sinai while the book is written on Sinai?
Right, because Yehoshua, the simple answer is, even though everything was given on Har Sinai, including all the nevi'im and everything, and I don't have this all worked out, so I'll tell you what Chazal say on this. Right, the truth is, it says everything that every prophet was going to later reveal was also given on Har Sinai. So it's really the same question, like how did Moshe know the end of the Torah if he received the Torah? Did he know that he wasn't going to go to Eretz Yisrael? And furthermore, the Gemara Nadarim says, had Klal Yisrael not sinned, the only books that would have been given were the Chamishe Kumshei Torah, the 5 books of the Torah, and Sefer Yehoshua, the book of Joshua. Right? Because there's something special and unique about Sefer Yehoshua that we needed. That primarily the 2 things are, they identified as, Chazal say, the reason we have Sefer Yehoshua is to teach us Chavivas Haaretz, to teach us how beloved the land is. So I wanted to talk about conquering the land, getting the land, the wars we had to go through the land. The second reason why Chazal say the only reason that had Yisrael not sinned, the only thing that would have been given was Sefer Yehoshua and the 5 books of Torah, is because Yehoshua, I believe, is one of 4 places that we talk about the gvulim, the boundaries. They talk about it in the Torah itself, I believe, in 3 places, and another place over here in Sefer Yehoshua, where they eliminate the boundary, they delineate what are the boundaries. Right? And again, it's to teach us the Chavivas Haaretz. Like we know the famous story between Reb Nachman and Reb Nassan. That Reb Nassan asked Reb Nachman, he said, when you talk about the special high levels of Eretz Yisrael, what are you referring to? Where are these high madregas? In which Reb Nachman turned to Reb Nassan and said, I'm talking about the rocks. I'm talking about the bricks, right? The houses, the mortar, the floor, the chairs, right? That even though, like I always think about this, you have a cucumber, it grows any place in Eretz Yisrael during the sabbatical year, during the year of Shemitah, it has Kedusha, right? Because every square inch of this land is holy. And that's what Yehoshua's job was. Right now, at that time, there were the 7 nations, the Zion Amim, living on the land. And Yehoshua's mission was to now rid it of its tumah and be mahapich the land, flip the land into its holiness. So it's kind of like if you had a garden, you uproot the weeds, right? You till the land, and now you're able to plant things. So Yehoshua says, Hashem tells Yehoshua in the first Perek, any place where your legs go, any place where you walk, that is going to be part of the Holy Land. Is going to be part of the boundaries. Right. I'll tell you interestingly. He's a barefoot. He's a barefooter. Good. Nice. Every yeshiva needs a barefooter. Very important. So I'll even say Ad Kedei Kach, where you get to the wars in Sefer Yehoshua, a lot of the prakim deal with the wars and the boundaries. So it says when they conquered Ad Azah, up until Gaza.
No way.
Rashi says, look it up when you get that Ad Lo Ad B'Tzlal, up until the boundaries of Gaza. And in fact, you will see that Gaza has always been a thorn in our side. When we get to Shoftim, we're going to learn about Shimshon.
We were supposed to. We just did everything but that. We left it out.
Right, we were supposed to.
We didn't finish the job.
We didn't finish the job. In fact, just riffing on this a little bit, that Yehoshua, the only place where Chazal criticized Yehoshua They criticized him in one area, and he didn't finish the job. He didn't finish the job. He didn't completely conquer the land. And in fact, that's why so much Yehoshua is taken up with wars, because he knew, Yehoshua saw, I don't know how he saw this, this prophetic insight, that he was going to die once he finished conquering the land and divvying it out. So he again, I wouldn't say this on my own, because I'll say this, he kind of played games in modern day vernacular, that he delayed in fighting the wars, right? So he kind of played games. And this leads us to nowadays, right? One of the lessons nowadays, again, we're going to keep this year politics free, but one of the things that we learn is that we need to work and fight hard to conquer Eretz Yisrael, right? Because you're transitioning, and this is one of the reasons, to bring a full circle, why we're saying chazak so many times, right? You have the Dor Day, you're seeing open miracles. That time period is now over with the entering into Eretz Yisrael.
You were surrounded by fire and clouds.
Fire.
Life was awesome.
Right. Life is great. Your clothing is great. No one needs to arrange free. You don't need a Rabbi Simser to arrange all the good things, right? It's just coming. You have everything happening for you. And now we're ending the time of those types of miracles, but you're going to see another type of miracle happen in this transition period. We're going to see how Yehoshua, Shem is Dom V'Yarech Ba'alon, he's fighting his kings. He's like, God, I need more time. Stop, son. Better than the White Wizard, from Lord of the Rings, better than any Dumbledore trick. Time, be still. He makes the sun stop, right? And the Malbim actually explains it could be the whole world or orbital rotation was maybe thrown off, because the sun is moving. How do you just make it stop in a specific region? So that was a clear miracle. What? Is the sun, right? Is right, flat earth thinking, what's? Right. Right. So you have to know exactly, you have to be Ma'ayin Sham. But the idea is...
But no matter what, Hashem made it happen. So whatever he made it happen.
Right.
He made it happen.
He made it. The idea is that the time period of these crazy miracles of like the Anei Kavod and the splitting of the sea, now you're going to see a new type of miracle happen, and they're not regular, they're not happening all the time. What you're happening is, Rav Kook explains, he says you have something called Tivi and Nisi. You have two ways Hashem runs the world. You have this natural order of things, and you have a miraculous order of things. And what Rav Kook says over there, and he explains this in other places about Sefer Yehoshua, is that when you push nature to its limits, now you get a miracle, right? So you see Yehoshua planned for military battle, right? He went out and fought. He didn't just sit back. It's not like in the Midbar where it says, Danane Akavod just destroyed their enemies and it flattened all the mountains. But Yehoshua meticulously planned for battle, and then he went in, and then you're going to see the walls of Jericho fall, right? So there had to be a tivai, there had to be a natural action connected to the miracle that they were going to witness, right? Tefillah was definitely part of it. You see that Hashem tells Yehoshua that when they didn't ask, the times where they went to war, and they didn't ask the Urim V'Tumim whether they should go to war, then they lost. So that's certainly Chelik in Tefillah. Right, well, Rabbeinu says in Lesson Beis in Likut Maran, right, he says that, right, Mashiach is going to smell out the sinners, right, I'm just, got to remember this, Becherbi Ubakashti, he says over there, that with my sword, the sword of Tefillah, the Cherub Pipios, the double-edged sword, Rav Nosson talks about he gives a whole arichas of Tefillah, how Mashiach is going to conquer the world through Tefillah. He says in Torah Beis, right, and he ties in with Yosef Atzadik. But I don't think I see it's all the same. It's not I don't see it as contradictory per se. Certainly Rabbi Nachman knew this, and but the point is that when you arm yourself with the siddur and the sword, right, like David HaMelech is the siddur and the sword, right, that he wrote 5 books of Tehillim, as Rav Nosson says, corresponding to the 5 books of Torah. When you arm yourself with the siddur and the sword, then you're zocheh to amazing, miraculous things, right?
That was the only case in which Hashem would be with him?
Right. The simple understanding over there is that Hashem says, if you want the land, you got to keep the Torah, right? If you really want Eretz Yisrael, you got to keep the Torah.
I was going to say the second Chazak V'Ematz that he had here, he goes, no one was talking about not keeping the Torah, and all of a sudden he goes into this whole tirade about make sure you keep the Torah.
Make sure you keep the Torah, right?
Where
So
why do we bring that up?
Right. So I think because that's the simple understanding is like if you want Eretz Yisrael, you have to give them. In fact, many of the words of the nevi'im, Shaya, Yechezkel, Yirmiyah, all the Treyas are, what are the 2 big sins? They're Avodah Zarah and not keeping the Torah. right? They're essentially not keeping the Torah, And like, so time and time and time again, all the nevi'im came to warn us, that if you don't keep the Torah, you're going to be thrown off. You're going to be... Right, exactly. So I'll tell you this, I don't have an exact thing, but I have something maybe I'll derech there, why Yehoshua was chosen. So first of all, we know that it says, Ish asher ruach bo, that Yehoshua knew how to go to the nature and temperament of everyone. And that was a big deal, because now that you're going to be leading the people, right? Because you have this, the Gemara, wrote over here, there's like 5 or 10 similarities between Moshe and Yehoshua that show why Yehoshua was chosen and what their similarity is. But what in the introduction to Sefer Yehoshua, I write about the comparing and contrasting. But basically, Moshe was like this, like he was the son, right? So he was like this amazing, like he went up to Shemayim and he brought down the Torah, But Yehoshua, he was a different type of leader. Yehoshua now, because he wasn't on the, he was a leader that was with the people, right? And in order to conquer the land, in order to run a military campaign, you got to be like with the people. You got to know how to rally the people. You got to know how to be Anochi b'toch ha'am yoshevet, right? I sit amongst my people, right? And that was really like Yehoshua's role. So the Sfarim all speak out how Yehoshua, he was chosen, and Dafka, not Aaron and other people. Not only was Yehoshua the main student, but Yehoshua really represents Mashiach ben Yosef. They all talk about Mashiach ben Yosef. The Gra talks about this. The Ramad Vali speaks about Yehoshua, Mashiach ben Yosef. And basically, Yehoshua came from the tribe of Ephraim, which was Yosef's son, right? And we always have to have 2 Mashiachs. We have the Mashiach ben David, which was like miracles in the Al HaTeva, that's what he's known as. And then we have Yehoshua, right? That you have the Mashiach ben Yosef, which is just like Yosef rose to power through non-miraculous or natural means, so to speak.
Miracles, but that wasn't the main thing.
Correct. It was a nes b'toch HaTeva, right? That's like Purim, right? The Vilna Gaon talks about this in Sefer Kol HaTorah, right? That just like Yosef rose to power through natural means, and it was it didn't look like any big miracles that were happening, but he went from place to place. So too, the redemption happens. The Talmud Yerushalmi in Brachos opens up and says it comes like the Shachar star. Little by little by little, there's this unfolding of events that happen through natural process. So Yehoshua, coming from the tribe of Ephraim, right? Coming from the tribe of Ephraim, which was Yosef's child, Yehoshua's whole thing was to use natural warfare, the natural means. It's the ending of the big miracles. It's the ending of the miracles of Mashiach ben David, which would be Moshe Rabbeinu in this case, right? And it was it sounds funny to call Mashiach ben David. David came later, right? But conceptually speaking, at least, right? So it was Yehoshua that now was the one who was tasked in order to, like we were talking about, pave the way, rid it of its thorns, right? And now the mahapich, the klipas, to the tzaddik kedusha, meaning to say, to rid the Zion Amim, those nations that are on the land, in order to bring them back into the fold, right? Because, and this is what you didn't do Perek Beis, but this is why when you get to Rachav the Zona, right? And we'll talk about that in next week as well. Rachav, right? It's the Gemara Megillah says that Yehoshua married Rachav, which is amazing. Like, could you imagine such a thing? Like, here you have, I don't want to say in the base metric. So it depends, right? She was a very holy. Right.
No, I thought it was a bit different. It's a one-time thing.
I'm saying this always, that's how Mashiach came. It's like always
right, because that's the inyan of Mashiach. Right. All these stories, Yehuda and Tamar, it's all Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben Yosef. If you follow, that's like.
Mashiach and other people, not the Yosef.
Well, that's the thing. I think the story of Yosef is actually juxtaposed with Yehuda and Tamar to show you that even though Yehuda and Tamar is based David, the story of Yosef is now juxtaposed with Yehuda and Tamar to show that there's always a Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben Yosef, and then it's very interesting things. I'm talking kind of one-legged here, but that's the sequence of events is really. I think they say the other way around, Yehoshua. And I could give weeks of shiur on just this topic of the Trei Mashiachim, of the 2 Messiahs.
Be strong.
So I just want to bring this full circle, and then we'll end. And then we'll end just speaking this out of the first Perek and transitioning to the second Perek. That another 2 things, just quick 2 things over here, which is like coming to Eretz Yisrael is hard work. Yeah. And that's the point. Coming to Eretz Yisrael is hard work. The point of all this, if you had to take out one thing, coming to Eretz Yisrael is hard work. And you're going to have to work really hard. We're ending Moshe. And we're transitioning to a new time period in history. and all this kezukim and all the things of learning Torah and Mashiach ben Yosef and everything, all that really means is it's going to be a lot of difficulty. It's going to be a lot of things. So if you want to get Eretz Yisrael, you're going to have to fight for it. You're going to have to go to war, right? And that's the internal bilbul and the internal confusion that we experience, right? That is there's just things sometimes seem a lot harder here. Parnasha issues, learning issues. This doesn't work out. That doesn't work out. A lot of things don't work out, right? The bed's not as comfortable. The food's not as good. I miss my home. I miss this. I miss that, right? But coming to Eretz shows a lot of hard work. And Hashem knows that. So he's preparing Yehoshua. He's preparing Yehoshua to be mechazik him, to strengthen himself, to say, this is going to be a lot of work. You got a big thing in front of you, right? You're not going to have these clouds around you anymore. You're going to have a military. You're going to have to go to war. You're going to have to plan things. You're going to have to learn Torah, right? And it's not easy. It's not going to be easy. So strengthen yourself, gird your loins. Certainly this is appropriate for Elulsman coming to New Yeshiva, right? Strengthening yourself, girding your loins, as Rabbi Kalmus, Rabbi David said the other day. Haltzmir, hold yourself, right? With all the Yeridas and Aliyahs, right? So this is the Yerida that Klal Yisrael had to experience in order to now work themselves up to a higher level. So they had this big Aliyah of Moshe Rabbeinu. You have the Dor Deya, you have all the miracles. Now they come to Eretz Yisrael. It's an essential Yerida, right? It's a Yerida now that they've fallen. They now have to work really hard. But in order to work back, in order to get to the Madrega that they were originally on, to get to the end of the Sefer and things like that.
Starting to learn Navi, saying you're getting into the land.
Right, it's good. It's good. So we should take the chavivas of Eretz Yisrael, the awesomeness of Eretz Yisrael, and we should carry that with us. And it's okay. It's good. It's good. It's okay. I mean, I could go longer, but you guys probably have lunch and.
My slides all right in Yeshua. You're not with me like it wasn't Moshe.
Right, because they want an amazing tzaddik, Right, you see a lot of times throughout Navi, you see this in Shmuel, you see this in Sefer Yechezkel, you see that Hashem, right, he says, you don't believe in me. Like Shmuel says to Hashem, there's a back and forth in Sefer Shmuel, where he gathers all the people together. It's the end of his life. He's giving his farewell speech, and he says, I haven't taken a penny from you guys. He's like, really, He's like, I worked my butt off, He's like, I haven't taken a penny and then anything. And he's like talking this out with Hashem also, and Hashem's like, you think they didn't believe in you? They didn't believe in me. He's like, what are you complaining about a little bit, So you see this is our thing. We don't believe in the leaders. We don't. Then you get to Sefer Shoftim, right? Sefer Shoftim is, right? Yehoshua now essentially conquers the land, even though he has some blind spots and some blank spots. But the question is this theme throughout Sefer Yehoshua is there is no central leadership in the land. In Shoftim, sorry, that's right. There's no central leadership in the land. Everyone does what's fitting in their own eyes, right? And all that's building towards the kingship in Sefer Shmuel. So you start with Sefer Yehoshua, which is, we got to get the land, we got to conquer the land, we have to rid the land, we have to pave the way, we have to be mahapachet to Kedusha, which is why he married Rachav, right? The Zona, Rachav. It could be Zona as Lashon food, also Mazon food, right? It could be both are true, it depends, there's different layers, right? And then what happens is, so he's taking, Yoshua's thing is to flip everything to the good, but then it's not fully ruled, right? So you don't have a central authority after Yehoshua dies because he was the man. So every person does what's good in their own eyes. But everyone does good in their own eyes. Say for Shoftim, we're going to get there. Mir Tzashem is going to learn this. We're going to learn about Pilegish Begiva. It ends with a very tragic story in the excommunication of the tribe of Binyamin. So now that scene closes. Now we open up Sefer Shmuel. What's Sefer Shmuel? A king. We need a centralized authority in our land, right? So you see, this is one contiguous story. The Torah just doesn't end. Right. Oh, it's our week. Right. Very good. Our week's Marsha.
So we should get the Perek.
So let's see. You have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So that's 4 days. 4 prakim. Was this good? This format? Was this okay? Talking it out, highlighting.
Next week, 4 days.
We'll get into it. Was this format okay? Just schmoozing it out with everyone. It's good. You're adding more context. More back, And you have the bin question.
Yeah,